guys, and welcome to another video. If you're new here, hi, my name is Jessica and I am currently in Japan on a scholarship. I've been living here now for about 2 months, and I figured why not give you guys like a life update about how my time here has been so far. I'm going to talk about various topics in this video. I'm not sure on how linear I will be in my storytelling. I'm going to try my best, so here we go. I'm going to try my best. Well, first off, the first 2 weeks here in Japan, I spent doing basically nothing and only attending meetings. I came here on the 27th of September, which was at the end of the Japanese summer. And here's the thing, I'm from Sweden and I'm not used to this kind of weather. Like, the heat here is let's just say that I'm kind of in fear of my life, like, because I'm not sure of how I will survive the Japanese summer. So keep me in your thoughts when summer arrives, because I'm terrified of that. But for the first 2 weeks, besides complaining about the heat, I took my time to explore Osaka and to the local area, but I also had to attend meetings concerning my scholarship, like rules we had to buy, how our dorm is supposed to be managed, getting a residency card, opening up a bank account, like various stuff. A lot of tedious things. But once that was finished, I could finally relax and be like, and now I just have to focus on settling in. And I live at an international dorm, and when I came here, we had nothing. Like, I had no utensils, no cooking equipment, nothing. So the first thing I had to do was to buy a lot of things for my dorm. Luckily in Japan you can get a lot of cheap stuff at something called a Hakuen store, which is basically like a dollar store. And so you can get like cheap frying pans and whatever. So I didn't have to spend too much money on that. I also had to buy a new pillow because the one they gave me wasn't good. I have more information on that in my other video, so I'll link that one here somewhere if I can figure it out, or it's down below. But yeah, but once I finished all the stuff for my dorm and settled in, it was about time for me to start at my language school. And yeah, I go to a language school run by Jasso, and I have to commute every day for about an hour. Like, I walk down the mountain, it takes about 20 minutes, barely 20 minutes, and then a 40-minute train ride, and then a 10-minute walk to school, so about an hour one way. So every day I commute for more than 2 hours. And the language school, I've been going there for a month and a half, and it took us about a month to finish half the book. And the book we're using is actually this one. So the first 10 chapters, how many grammar points did we do?
2,000 years later.
Okay, so we did about 96 grammar points during the first 10 chapters, and we have a test coming up next Friday, so I have to memorize all of that for that test. However, I studied Japanese before I came to Japan, so I've been able to take it chill during these first month and a half, because most of the grammar we've been going through I've already studied. However, if you're thinking about coming to Japan and applying for a Japanese language school, I just want to give you a heads up, because they will teach you Japanese in Japanese. So if you have no previous knowledge of Japanese whatsoever, you will find it hard to comprehend what they're trying to teach you at first. And it might feel quite boring to begin with, because you start off with things like, on the desk there is a pen, under the desk there is a bag, like that simple kind of grammar. And like there is and there are, like that's what you start off with, and that's in order for you to like get the basic grammar structure of the language, and then you build on that. My fellow classmates had a hard time at the beginning, so I kind of had to like, they mean this and they mean that, like translate the grammar rules for them. But now, 1.5 months in, they're pretty much up to speed, and so if you're ambitious, you won't have any problems basically joining or starting at a Japanese language school. But if you're not ambitious, I do not recommend it, because the other thing with the Japanese language school is that we get homework, and a lot of homework. And it's not for the next week, so it's not like you can go home and sit down and plan your schedule. The homework is for the next day. Sometimes you might get like 4 to 6 different kinds of homework that is due the next day. And with my commuting, it means that I'm home around 5:15 in the afternoon. And after spending 6 hours at the language school, just being like surrounded by Japanese and getting it more or less shoved down my throat, I'm pretty exhausted. So I usually spend like an hour or an hour and a half just taking some downtime, like just resting for a little bit, and then I sit down and do the homework. I do, however, feel like the Japanese language school, I want to talk more about it, but I don't want to waste this entire video on my language school experience, so I'm going to save that up for another video. So stay tuned for that one. But just basically, it's interesting to study at the Japanese language school. Then the thing, so how an average day for me is like, I would say, like I wake up around 6 o'clock in the morning, depending on if I take a shower or not, and then I pack my breakfast and my lunch and I bring it with me to the language school. And so after commuting and everything, I leave my dorm at 7:30 every morning, and I arrive at my language school about 8:40. And then I sit down, I eat my breakfast while I try to memorize we have to do dictation every morning, so I sit down and memorize the lines for the first class, review the vocabulary and whatnot, and then lesson starts. So we have 3 lessons, 10 minutes break between each, and then we have a lunch break for an hour and 10 minutes, and then we have another 3 lessons with 10-minute breaks, and then our language school ends at 4 o'clock sharp. And then I normally take the 20 minutes past 4 train back home to university, walk up the mountain, and I'm home here at 5:15-ish. So yeah, that's like every single day for me right now. And when I get home, like I said, I relax, but I also make sure to cook the food that I need to bring with me to school the next day, my breakfast and my lunch. And then I also cook my dinner at the same time. So yeah, I'm kind of getting stuck in a rut, but I try to spend my weekends going about exploring the area. So I've been to Kobe, I've been to Kyoto, I've been to various places in Osaka. All of these trips you can more or less find in my vlogs, so please check them out if you're interested in any of that. But yeah, I think, oh, something else, compared to 10 years ago, I came to Japan for the first time 10 years ago, and I studied here as an exchange student. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but the main difference between then and now is this little guy, the smartphone. Back then I was 21 years old. I did not have much of a backbone. Like, if I wanted to travel anywhere, I would make sure to do it with friends, and Japan is a safe country. It was just that I did not feel safe with my language skills at the time, so I was terrified of getting lost and not being able to find my way back. If I ever travel somewhere, I would do my research on the computer. I would write down every single kanji, all the directions, and sometimes I would go to university and print out maps of where I was supposed to go, and I would use that, and then I would, when walking around, be like, 1, 2, okay, 2 first kanjis are matching my nose, but not the third one. Okay, go next place. I go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 kanjis match, not the 5th one. Dang it! Like that was my life. But nowadays, with the smartphone, it's so easy to travel around in Japan. I just use Google Maps, and it will take me wherever I need to go. Also with Google Translate, you just use the camera and you can get a sort of understanding of where you are or what people, and you can use the microphone, speak into the app in Google Translate, and it can, to some extent, not perfectly, translate what you want to convey to people, and it works in Japanese and English as well. So that's super helpful. So if you're traveling to Japan and you're not comfortable with the language, I highly recommend that you get a SIM card here. And getting a SIM card here is also quite easy. I use something called Mobile, and obviously this is not sponsored, but with Mobile you can actually get your SIM card the moment you land in Japan, because you can assign it, like you can get the pickup for the SIM card at the airport, and then you just log into the airport Wi-Fi, go online, insert all the data, and then you have a SIM card. And you can choose to have it for a month, 3 months, or more. I have it indefinitely because I'm staying here for 1.5 years, and the moment I will stop using the SIM card, the moment I leave Japan, I just have to cancel it. There is no delay or anything. I can just cancel it right away, and that's really, really nice. And I have 10 gigabytes of surf every month, which is pretty neat. And yeah, so actually I figured I put up on my Instagram, and if you're not a follower, it's linked down below, but I put up on Instagram that I was making this video, so I actually have some questions from people about my stay here in Japan. So let's go through some of them, shall we? First question is, do you have to learn Japanese? And yes, I do have to learn Japanese because of the scholarship. It said in the application form that I had to be willing to learn and study Japanese. So yes, I do have to. Another one is, when will you be back home? And this is from a student of mine. I don't have an exact date on when I'll go back to Sweden. But once I'm done with the language school, I'm going to study at a Japanese university. And the spring semester here in Japan ends, if I remember it correctly, like during the 3rd week of March. And I'm not sure of how long they are going to let me stay here, because I'm not paying my ticket back home to Sweden, the scholarship is, and I have no idea of when they're going to fly me back home. But I assume that I will be back at work in April 2021. And yeah, I miss you guys. I miss teaching so much. Another one is, what was your first impression of your dorm room? And yeah, I want to make a separate video about how it's like to live in a dorm in Japan. But yeah, I want to answer this question. Okay, my first impression of my dorm room was not the greatest. It's quite different from my previous dorm. Sadly, I won't be able to go back there and check it out because I discovered that they tore down my previous dorm last year. But this dorm, where I'm currently living, it wasn't a good first impression. However, I do only pay about 7,000 yen a month in rent, and on top of that I also pay for water and gas, and my last bill was about 10,000 yen. So if we do if we convert that to dollars or Swedish crowns, it's about $100 or like 1,000 Swedish crowns. So it's not a lot. I don't pay much in rent, so in retrospect, I can't really complain about my current living situation. So, however, it wasn't a first good impression. But stay tuned for that video. Why does it feel like I'm only making like promises about future videos, and I'm sorry, but I do have plans for this channel. The reason why I'm making videos of my time here is because I want to encourage people to to travel abroad, explore the world, and just don't stay at home in your own countries. Open up your eyes and see what life has to offer, basically. Another question, and oh, this is a long one, yeah. What is the difference between living in Japan and Sweden? And yeah. First off, when I live in Sweden, I do not live in like a big city, and here in Japan, while I do live in Osaka, I live in the outskirts of Osaka. So I have to commute for a much longer time, and I have to do that by train. And commuting by train in Japan is so convenient, like the train is on time, like on the minute. And if you're from Sweden, you know that's not the case with the Swedish train system. So I love actually to commute by train in Japan. However, in the morning it's very crowded, so I basically have to stand up for the entire trip to my language school, which is not so much fun. But there are quite a lot of differences between Sweden and Japan. Because the thing with Japan is like they have more or less like a system for everything. And the good thing about this is that nothing will fall between the chairs. Like you feel safe and confident, and you know that you're being well taken care of. However, some of this system that they use can be quite old, and Japan is not the quickest country with updating their routines. So occasionally I can sit down and be like, why aren't you doing it like this? This would be so much faster, and why are you so stuck with these rules? And so, like, the thing is, if you ask them like, why can't we do this, you're more or less just going to get the answer like, no, you can't. But they can't really explain why you can't. But then as a Swede, I'm taught to question the system and to be like, why can't we do this? But I had this experience the last time I was in Japan, so this time I was prepared, and now I'm more or less adapted to the shogunai mentality, meaning like you can't help it. It is what it is, and that pretty much sums up Japan. It is what it is, and there's no use in complaining about it. You just have to accept it. Even though you might not agree, just accept it. It will save you a lot of headache. Yeah, how do I travel to work, etc. Well, like I said, I travel by train. And let's see here. Is it harder to live in Japan? And with harder, they mean closeness to work, train, metro, bus. The thing is, like, you have a lot of train stations here, so it's actually quite easy to commute. Entertainment, you have karaoke, you have so many more stores that are open late. However, since I live on the outskirts, I do not really take advantage of that. But in general, it's much easier to entertain yourself in Japan compared to Sweden, because things are open to like a later, have longer opening hours and so on. But with friends, like, I have a lot of friends in Japan actually. Not to brag, but I have friends here from a previous time in Japan, and I have friends that are Japanese exchange students that I've gotten to know while I've studied Japanese at the university in my town. So I've been meeting up with a lot of people, and I also have Swedish friends who have moved to Japan, so I've been meeting up with them as well. So this time around when I came to Japan, I did not feel as lonely as I did the first time I came around, but at my previous dorm, I feel like we were a lot tighter compared to this dorm here. We were hanging out in the kitchen or in the lounge area a lot more compared to the people here. So I do miss my old dorm. However, it's nice to have a separate room. Like, I had to share a room the last time, and Becca, I love you, but it's, you know, it's just nice to have your own room. So yeah. What do you eat is another question, and I eat rice 3 times a day. And no, I do not get bored with it. It's a choice I made on my own. What I do is, like, I buy like a 5-kilo bag of rice, and I have a rice cooker. They were so nice to give us a rice cooker here at the dorm, and what I do is I take one portion is, for me at least, half a deciliter of rice. I don't know how much that is in with the English American or English measurement, but half a deciliter of rice. So what I do at night is that I take 1.5 deciliter of rice, I cook that, and then I divide that into 3 portions. One that I eat, one for breakfast, and one for lunch. But what they have here in Japan that I really, really love, hold on, let's see, my camera is actually on my fridge. They have these side dishes that they sell at the supermarket, and quite cheap. Like, you can see here, 398 yen, and this is like 2 servings for me at least. So, and I buy various of stuff like sweet potatoes, spring rolls, and whatnot. Sometimes it's nice to have an onigiri at home. So what I normally do is I buy the side dishes at my local supermarket, and at least for me, as long as I can switch up and out my side dishes, I have no problem with eating rice whatsoever for every day of the week. But occasionally I would have like a cup of noodles, or I will go and have lunch at my language school. We have really, really cheap lunches. You can get like a bunch of food for, I think the cheapest meal is like 360 yen, which is like nothing. And however, it's a little bit cheaper to buy the big bag of rice and just the side dishes. And so I'm doing that to save money because I want to travel while I'm here. But yeah, eating here in Japan is so easy and it's so convenient, and probably one thing that I love about Japan the most. Because if you're in Sweden and you want to like travel by train and you go into Pressbyrån, you just want to buy a snack, like it's like a small convenience store, like small kiosk, basically. Like if you want to buy like sandwiches to bring with you, that's basically all they have, or maybe a salad. It's like twice the price for the side dish, and that's one meal only. And so technically that's kind of like 4 times the price. So yeah, it's so convenient to eat here in Japan. Like if you walk into 7-Eleven, you can have a really, really nice dish. at 7-Eleven for a steal. That's like my favorite part of with Japan. It's the food. So yeah, I'm happy. I'm eating all healthy and all that. And normally what I also do is like right next to our language school we have one of those One-Hakkien stores. So I will go in there and I will buy like carrots or like broccoli or something, and then when I get back home I will fry that so I can have some vegetables with my side dish as well. So that's a tip for you. And do I have any other questions? Maybe I want to save those for later. Yeah, my favorite thing about Japan. Yeah, my favorite thing about Japan is the side dishes, like buying food, but also I feel like everything is very convenient here, and yeah. I do, however, miss having a car driving around, because the thing with living up at my university right now is that I live up on a mountain, and after 7 o'clock the escalator stops working, stops running, so we have to walk the entire way. But if you're here in Japan, my advice to you is actually to go grocery shopping after like 7 or 8 o'clock, because then they put like a huge discount on all the food, so you can get super cheap food here. I feel like I need to do like a food video. Like, how many videos have I promised right now? Like 3, 4? I don't know. Oh yeah, I'm going to Mie next week, so stay tuned for that video. I'm just promising videos. Sorry, but yeah. Oh, one more thing, and probably like the most important thing. When you travel abroad, and if you study abroad and you live at an international house or an international dorm, a few tips for you. First off, communicate. You have to be more open-minded to other people, because they have different values, they have different ways of doing things, they have different routines, and instead of getting irritated and pissed off, try to have a conversation. Second of all, most people that you live with probably won't have English as their first language. English is not my first language, it's Swedish, but I do however work as an English teacher in Sweden. And I feel right now that my English has gotten worse since I came to Japan, because currently at the moment I don't really have any native speakers to talk to. Like, we have one American girl here, but because of my schedule and me studying at the language school, we rarely meet. And what I mean with this is that the people you're talking to also use English as a second language, so you might talk around each other and you might use the language differently, and you kind of get offended for no reason. For instance, the phrase, "What's wrong with you?" It's quite offensive, but if you say, "What's wrong?" like, that's good. And so I've had some people here, a person he actually got irritated with me because something I said, and I was like, that's not how I meant it. I meant it like this, because this is how we use this phrase in Sweden. Like, when we use English, this is what this phrase means. And so the language, like, you have to communicate with other people. And also, if you feel offended by someone, don't go around like thinking about it. Like, go and talk to that person. Don't wait like 6 hours basically and be like, "You offended me earlier," and I'm like, I'm sorry. Just like, I'm having a hard time with those people who just hold it in instead of just talk about it. And once you've talked about it, let it go. And no, that's not a reference to a certain video that's currently in cinema. So yeah, okay, I'm just rambling along right now, so I need to cut this video short. If you had the time and energy to stick till the end of this video, I'm so grateful. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.